Alright, so let's talk about why Shaq is the most overrated player in NBA history. Now, I just want to clarify, I don't believe Shaq is a bad player. I rank him, I believe, number 8 all time personally, but I just believe his legacy and everything that he did is a bit overrated by people from modern eras, or not, I guess not modern eras, but like people who started watching basketball recently and people who watched basketball in the 90s, partly because of the footage. I think his footage is pretty impressive. He has some of the best footage available for all the centers. Like, it's kind of fun to watch him, right? Because he dunks a lot. But the reality is he's not as great as Wilt or Kareem. It's not as great. I mean, really, you can't compare him to Bill Russell. They're different type of players. They don't really share anything in common. Hakeem is someone who for the longest time people thought was greater than him. But now 30 years later, 20 years later, people think Shaq is. So it is a little bit confusing. But let me explain to you why I personally don't think Shaq is that great. First of all, we can talk about the fact, and this is just the reality, and I hate to bring this up, but I have to, that 4 out of his 4 championships, 3 of them are filled with controversy. And I don't mean like controversy where it's like, man, if a player got injured, he would have won, or the other team would have won if the player didn't get injured. No, I mean controversy as in the refs. You know, there's a man in prison for betting on sports games, I believe. I think that's accurate, but some of the worst officiated games you've ever seen in your life have to do with the Lakers winning the championship in 2000, 2002, and the Heat winning the championship in 2006. So that is probably his biggest praise, that he has 4 championships he won 4 championships and 3 of them were in a row. But I just don't believe that we can give him that credit because of that. You know, the reality is, like, without Kobe having some ridiculous games, even if you exclude the controversial games where the refs were, you know, quite a bit biased towards the team that Shaq was on, even if you exclude those games, like, Kobe and D. Wade definitely showed up in games where Shaq did not. And without them showing up, they probably don't win, right? Besides 2001, that year was pretty clear. They didn't really lose any games. I think they lost 1 in total. So they were 16-1 in the playoffs. So they ran through the league pretty easily. But I don't know. I mean, that right there alone is kind of hard for me to properly give him his praise. Now, I personally don't rank players based on championships, so it doesn't affect my ranking. Now, I was only bringing it up because of other people. Now, what does affect my ranking is competition and the rules. I truly believe that the most important thing a basketball player can deal with is competition. Now, even though Shaq played great centers, right, he did. The problem is when compared to Wilt, to Kareem, to Bill Russell, right, he didn't play as many great centers. And if he played, let's say Shaq played a lot of centers that were great. The problem is he didn't play them enough. I believe that Wilt and Kareem played, I think, 3 seasons in the NBA together and played each other more times than Hakeem and Shaq did their entire careers against each other. I mean, that fact is mind-boggling. You know, I mean, how can you compare them, right? I'm just being honest with you, right? Because Wilt was dominating great players. I know that's very unlike something that you probably didn't want to hear, but it's the reality, right? If you go look at his stats, you go look at the actual factual information available, you'll find out very quickly Wilt played great players, while you find out Shaq did not. Now, another problem with Shaq is the way he played, right? I truly believe that style of play does not translate through eras. Obviously, he was big, and so him being big will, but I mean more about the elbows and the offensive fouls that he kind of got away with. That if you watch a Shaq game, there's no way for you to say it didn't happen. Now, that's it. I think, you know, I don't really want to go too hard on Shaq, because I do think he's great. I mean, I have him number 8 all time, but I just don't think he's supposed to. I've seen people put him number 2. Right, I don't think anybody has him number 1, so I guess in that sense it's okay. So, that being said, thank you guys for watching. God bless you, and I hope you enjoyed.